No crazy equipment shenanigans today. I've just got my MW and my Y-Fort, all with standard mouthpieces and stuff. This does have a new lead pipe. Canstool MO, Minic Open maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I think it works pretty well in that. Maybe I'll talk about it at some point, but the original lead pipe, not super sold on it, and that seems to have improved it a lot. Anyway, I want to talk today about getting the color immediately at the beginning of a note. We can call this a few different names. We can call it response or clear articulations, or I don't know, there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of refer to the same thing. But I think color at the beginning of the note is a nice descriptive way to put it for the sake of this video. This is something that I think defines the top echelon of players from everybody else. It's not the hardest thing on the planet to make a good sound on trombone, I think. I've heard kids, even in middle school, that I'm like, wow, that's like a really solid sound. But it's the difference between that and starting a note really, really well that I think defines those really top players. Just for an example, at ITF 2023, Salt Lake City, I heard some really good college trombone choirs, and I was like, man, that sounds great. Just really good playing, good ensemble playing, the sounds all blend together. I like it. It's good. And then I heard the Salt Lake City Symphony, right? Is that what they are? Utah Symphony? There we go. Utah Symphony trombone section played some excerpts, and I was like, why is this in a totally different world than these very good college trombone choirs? And obviously they're pros with a lot of experience and they play together a lot, blah, 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 blah. But really the big thing that defines it is the front of the notes. The front of the notes are just so easy, effortless, clear, musical, all of those things combine into making them just sound way better than the college trombone choirs, which again, were like really good. I'm not denigrating them whatsoever. It's just that difference is pretty stark. And so I'm striving for that myself. It would be neat if I could sound like that. Do I? No, but I'm getting closer. So let's talk about this a little bit. This is a really important part of trombone playing as you get better, is just starting notes in an easier way. And I say this as someone who started notes in a really hard way for a very long time. And now that I've found over the last, year, who knows, an easier way to just begin playing phrases, begin playing notes, it's made a lot of things easier. For instance, just playing in time. We'll talk about how we get to this point in a bit, but when you can choose when to start a note, guess what? Playing in time is a lot easier. Instead of, as I used to be, really afraid of like D in the staff, if I had a big exposed entrance, 1, 2, 3, that used to be the scariest thing on the planet, because I would go 1, 2, 3, and then I would airball it, or it'd be late, or it would sound really bad. All sorts of things would happen. But if you start the note in a really easy way, guess what? You can just do it whenever you want. And because when you can do it when you want, and it doesn't take very much effort, you can shape that note a lot of different ways. You can, if you're playing another D in the staff, you can play that with a sforzando and come away with it in a controlled manner, and then crescendo. That's so much easier now that I'm not forcing the beginning of that note and then going, oh, what do I do from here? Everything is really tense and my air is tense and there's just not much I can do with it. So being able to start a note on time and be more musical with the notes that you play makes a huge difference. Again, this makes a difference everywhere, but for instance, playing things like bordonis, if you start the first note of a bordoni in an easier way, makes it so much easier to play the rest of the phrase, because one, you haven't wasted any air starting that C, and you're not really tense to start. If you start that note in a tense way, it's so much harder to continue in a really beautiful musical way. So There's a lot of benefits to this, and I highly recommend trying it out. So let's talk about how you get to this point. There's a few things that have to happen. One, tension in the lips. We can't have tension in the chops themselves. These guys, the stuff that vibrates, cannot be engaged. It's actually pretty easy. There's a lot of ways you can actually engage the muscles in the lips themselves and like still play. I think we've all heard like very early players sound like that because they think in order to buzz, I need to mash the chops together. You can also hold them slightly apart and have them just a little bit too far apart. There's all sorts of things you can do wrong here, including hold just like 5% tension in your chops, like I did for a long time and not really realize it. And that's going to make playing so much more difficult. These need to vibrate. However, what doesn't need to vibrate is your corners. Just engage the corners. You can think of this a lot of ways. Some people think of the spot where the mouthpiece ends on your chops as the corners. Some people, it's literally the corners of your lips. I feel it as kind of like a Fu Manchu mustache beard thing. This is the muscles that I feel. And the way that I think of it to engage them is not think, oh, I need to engage these. I think keeping a flat chin and not keeping a firm lip. That doesn't really do anything. So that's number one. Two, having a very clear, simple articulation for yourself. I do think this is just one of my pet peeves that trombonists get really hung up on, like, oh, you want to use a do articulation here and a lu articulation here and blah, blah, blah. I just like to think of it as singing. How would I sing this phrase? If I want to play B flat scale going up, da 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 da, I'm just going to sing it. And literally while I play, I'm thinking, this is my voice right now, kind of this is my voice, and I'm singing the B flat scale going up. That's all I'm doing. And if I get really confused on the instrument, I'll put the horn down and go da 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 da. That's how it goes. Literally, after I sang it, I played it better. I just try to relate it to singing. You're not always going to use the exact same syllable, and things are going to change in different ranges and stuff. I don't really worry about that. I let the music and the instrument kind of dictate how that's going to change, and I just sing it on da. Da, 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 da. And that just keeps it really simple and easy for me. And it means my articulation is pretty consistent, even on different instruments. I will pick up tenor because this is part of the conversation today. One very important part about this that my old teacher kind of dropped into my brain a long time ago, and he said, you need to match your air pressure to the start of any given note. And I was like, oh yeah, of course, duh. And I didn't really think about it, and I just kind of had it in my brain, and it just kind of rattled around for a while, and I was like, am I doing that? Am I always doing that? And basically, there's a spectrum, right? You can force things, use way too much air pressure, or you can underfund things. And we want to be right there in the Goldilocks zone for any given note that we play. If you force things, yeah, you can play, especially if you have a nice engaged face and your chops aren't tense. You can force things forever, but it's going to take a lot of endurance. Things aren't going to sound especially good, and you're going to run into weird response issues, especially as you play really low and really high. Those notes are not going to want to be forced the same way. And obviously, playing soft and more delicate, it's just not going to work if you play forced. If you underfund, if you go the other direction, things are going to get more difficult the other way. I don't really know what that's like because I've always just forced it. And I've done that with really bad chops, really tense chops. I've done every bad thing in the book because I thought that response meant just starting a note. I'm going to start this note now. And if you just use really forced air and you just go bam, you can start a lot of notes. You also miss a lot of notes and your endurance is usually really bad. And like the example I gave earlier, playing like exposed stuff in a scary range means you're probably going to miss it 9 out of 10 times. So matching the air pressure to the start of the note. This is something I've talked about before, kind of the same as sweet spot. And one way that I like to approach it is playing through different ranges with a nice, easy DA articulation to feel the difference. It's not going to be the same on every instrument. It's not going to be the same in every range. And you need to figure out how that difference works. Like when I change from tenor to this, I'm not purposefully doing this, but in order to find that sweet spot where the air pressure is correct, I find that my oral cavity gets a little bit lower, gets a little more open on the bass trombone. The articulation doesn't massively change, nothing really massively changes, but I'm using a little more air unconsciously, and my oral cavity is just a little more open. And I just let that happen. I'm just trying to sing through the instrument, and since the voice that I'm using is just a little bit different, I let that be different. And that's a huge part of it. So that's 3 things, right? Tension out of the face, blah, 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 no tension there, easy articulation, and matching the air to the front of the note will get you so much closer to finding that color immediately on the start of the note. I don't think I've actually done it in any of the playing things that I've done today. When you hear someone who can really just start a note perfectly, it's pretty magical. I can't do it. I'm getting just ever closer and ever closer to being able to do it. But I think it's a worthy journey and something you could try out. That's all I got time for now. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.